Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I'm down here at Cockle Bay. It's Thursday morning. It's a beautiful looking morning, just a gentle breeze. There's a few boats moored up here. There's the Melinda V over there with some lights on. A beautiful example of a boat. And what I'd like to do is kick off yet another day with a book summary. And I'm really proud of the progress that I've made. This video episode that I will deliver today is number 1490. I just can't believe that within 3 years I am, if not the most prolific vlogger of peak performance material in the world, certainly up there in terms of one of the most prolific ones. So I've got a huge amount of content. I've focused my effort on delivering content. It was the most important thing for me to generate as much content as possible, and looking back, it's probably the best decision I've made, because if I try to do it perfectly, then I wouldn't have made the progress that I've made. Instead, I decided just to get on with it, just do it, throw myself into it, and achieve as much as I could. And now I'm at a position where I've got a huge and absolutely massive library of material. And looking forward, what really excites me is the ability to take that material, to add subtitles to it in English. But here's the clincher. Here's the really exciting thing. I've just discovered now that there is technology available that can translate YouTube videos or any video and add other subtitles to it in other languages. So what I can do is I can take this material that I'm developing right here, right now, in English, with the background of Sydney 2023 as the backdrop, just to keep it interesting. And what I can do is that I can subtitle it in Italian, in Greek, in Chinese, in Hindi, and a myriad of other languages, which means that I can reach far more people with this investment in time, this material that I'm generating. And I'm sure that at some point in time there will be a technology that will be able to take my spoken word and translate it into another language, so that what I'm saying today in English can be translated word for word into a spoken word of Greek or Hindi or Italian or Chinese, so that this library of work, this investment of love, can continue and can be increased manifoldly. So the 1 unit of effort that I've put into this can become a lot more effective than what it is at the moment, with me getting 10 or 20 views, because I do believe the work that I've done is important, is significant, and is very useful. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll kick off with today's book summary, which is another cracker, another really interesting one. a book summary that gets you thinking and puts a different spin, a different perspective on our lives, what we do, and to give us an understanding, to comfort us, to nurture us, to teach us that everybody has similar sort of challenges in their lives. And this book is entitled The Midnight Library by Haig, and is a book which delves into the life of a 30-year-old lady who is depressed and wants to end her life because of her depression, takes a bottle of sleeping pills and finds herself in a transitional place between life and death, where she gets to experience thousands or millions of other people's lives, to get a sample of what their life is like. Because when we live, we tend to overestimate how good other people's lives are and to underestimate our own life, only to realise from this book here that this protagonist in this book, the subject, who's named Nora Seed, ends up understanding that nobody's life is perfect. Everybody has challenges, and even if you were to be able to live a million different lives, you still wouldn't be satisfied, you still wouldn't be happy, because everybody has challenges, everybody needs to sacrifice, and everybody has problems, because the bottom line is that is how we're wired. That is the nature. That's it. That is our human nature, according to this author. And it really is profound. It really is important, because living in 2023, living in Australia, a country that has everything, you wouldn't find a better country to live in than Australia, with our welfare system, with the beauty, with the climate, you name it, Australia has it all. And yet, even in 2023, there are people who are depressed, unhappy, and destitute, mentally, physically, spiritually, and feel detached from this world. And the suicide rate here in Australia for youth, for people who are young, is really, really high. And it's really, really disappointing and saddening to know that even in a country like Australia, where people potentially can live whatever life they want, still are unhappy and still want to end their life because of the way they see themselves, the way they compare themselves to other people. And as I alluded to before, what happens is that we tend to overestimate how good it is for other people and underestimate our life, so much so that we end up depressed, unhappy, detached, when the bottom line is each person, each and every person is born into the world uniquely. They have a unique set of charismata, God's gifts, of skills, of talents, and it's given to each person in different measures Some people have more of something, other people have less of something. But we are born with and in the image of God, and what we do with that image is, as I said before, we're born in the image of God, which means that we are born with the virtues of God, and we are allowed, or we are called to use those virtues and to invest and to leverage those virtues so that we can make the most of our lifetime. As I said, we have different proportions of those virtues. Some have more, some have less, but it's up to us to use them. It's up to us to figure out the right recipe so that we make the most of it and to do the most of our lives. So just getting back to this book again, the author realizes that even if you could sample everybody's life, even if you could be Bill Gates' daughter for a moment, you still wouldn't be happy, you still wouldn't be satisfied, unless, of course, you had the right attitude and you made the most of that particular life. The author makes a point that even if you could live 1,000,000 lives, chances are you would still be unsatisfied, because that is our human nature. We are, in our nature, insatiable. We want more and more. The more we get, the more we want. And it's all about progress. It's all about growing and developing. So that is why in some cases the more choices that people have, the more dissatisfied they are, because with every choice comes first, second and third level consequences and expectations, and you never can tell if you made another choice where it would have led, because at the end of the day we all have different fates. Just like when I go fishing sometimes, and you can stand on a wharf and there could be 20 or 30 people there fishing in the same water, using the same bait, the same rigs, the same lines. Some will catch fish, others will not catch fish. One person may catch a big fish. You just don't know. Life is so random, and as I said, and because we have different fates, we're going to have different outcomes. And we're not ever going to know, as I said before, whether or not if we did A, B and C, we would have had D, E and F outcomes. So a lot of people always think that, you know, if I did something else, or if I studied something else, or if I had a different partner or different parents or a different life, that I would have been happier. But there's no guarantee. You just don't know how your life would turn out. But the important thing, I guess the important lesson, is to make the most of the life that you have, and to make the most of the eternal now, to live in the present, not to focus on your past, not to focus too much on your future, but to focus on what you're thinking, what you're doing right here, right now, because that is where your life is. If you spend too much in the past, you'll miss out on the now. If you spend too much in the tomorrow, you'll miss out on the now. And that is why the author here is saying that even if you lived 1,000,000 lives, there are no guarantees that you're going to be happy, because we are insatiable, which is our human nature, as the author says. But the other thing also is that there are two types of people in the world, from what I have learnt over time. There are people who are matches, and the people who are mismatchers. The matchers are people who look for the good in life, look for the common link that links people together, places together, experiences together. And on the other side of the coin are the mismatchers, the people who always look for what is wrong, the perfectionists, the people who are never happy with whatever happens or whatever is said or whoever they are with, because they're always looking for what's wrong with that. And Nora Seed, the key person in this book, is that sort of person, somebody who finds wrong with everything in life. And even though she gets to sample the hundreds, the thousands of lives in that transitional period that she was sleeping between life and death, she found wrong with every life that she sampled. But this is the clincher, this is the key lesson, this is the key message, that at the end of the day, striving for progress is our human nature, and that we are all made differently, and we make many choices in our lives which have different outcomes, different consequences. Even if you're an identical twin and made exactly the same choices as your twin, you're going to have different outcomes because we have different fates, and God's will is different for each and every one of us. God's plan for every person is not the same. Hopefully it's the same in terms of the eventual outcome, but during our lives we are tested. We are tested in order to grow, expand, to understand ourselves better, to understand our place in the world better, and to find God along the way. And we are made different from each other, for each other. So those differences have a purpose, and that purpose is productive. And we just need to understand why we are different, why we are suffering, why we are challenged. And in many ways, we are challenged throughout our life, but suffering is optional. Suffering is the message. Suffering is the meaning that you apply to the challenges you face in life. And as I said, some people will experience the same thing as what you experience, and they will grow from it, they will develop from it, they will be enhanced and nurtured from it, whereas you may feel disappointed, hurt, and pained by the same experience. So I guess the point is that we need to step back and recalibrate the way we see things, the way we feel things, and to know that it's up to each and every one of us to try and find the beauty in the world and to try and understand God's will a little bit better so that we can have a more productive outcome in life. Because at the end of the day, humans are happiest when we're evolving, when we're growing, and we're developing. And in order to grow, develop, and to evolve, you need to be constantly changing. You need to be constantly being uncomfortable. The only way you can grow, the only way you can change, is to be uncomfortable and to lean just outside your comfort zone. Because just outside your comfort zone is where all the magic happens. So you need to basically be uncomfortable, you need to basically be unhappy, and to have the cognitive dissonance in order to move, and to move in a direction that's going to teach you It's going to allow you to compare and contrast to where you were, so that you can then assess what your next steps are going to be. And the key message from this author is that perfection does not exist. Perfection may exist momentarily, like when a flower blooms, it's momentarily perfect, but it will too wilt, it will die, and it will fall to the ground, just like our human nature, just like our physical nature. Now, we are perfect for a certain amount of time. We are perfect in God's image. We are perfect in the virtues that we express, that we live, and that we do. But that's only momentarily. You know, we are disrupted, we are challenged by our own passions that we need to fight against. So to understand that perfection does not exist, and that we need to understand and to be happy with just being okay, is one of the key messages. So the next point that comes from this wonderful book is the author profoundly says, and this is a really, really important and profound point, that what you believe is the best life may not be the best life for you to live. What the author here is saying is that we often look at other people's lives and think, wouldn't it be great to be a Kardashian, or wouldn't it be great to be a sports hero, or wouldn't it be great to be a movie star, or whatever it is. We see so many influencers on Facebook and Instagram putting up their posts every day, suggesting that they live the perfect and ideal life. But what the author here is saying is that even if you wanted to live their life, it could be drudgery, it could be causing misery, because each and every one of us is born into the world with certain charismata, as the Greeks say, certain gifts. God creates each person with certain gifts, which are small elements of God's godness, his virtues, and he may give you 1 unit of this and 2 units of that and 5 units of something else. And every single person has a different configuration of ingredients, and it's up to each person during their life experiences and during their actions to use those ingredients and combine those ingredients to deliver the outcomes, to deliver the calling that they have been called to, and to do the things that are God-pleasing, to enable them to live a fulfilled and wonderful life. And for some people, they may not have the necessary charismata or combination of charismata to live another person's life. For example, if you're an introvert and you want to live a Kardashian life, then you'd be living in absolute misery, wanting your privacy all the time and wanting to do things and to be yourself without being judged every minute of the day. So what the author here says is that our calling requires us to be in alignment with our values, in alignment with our goals, in alignment with our actions, and of course in alignment with the resources, the gifts that we have to enable us to live in a particular way and to do the things that we enjoy and that add value to those around us. And the bottom line is that it doesn't matter if you have a windfall gain. It doesn't matter if you just get discovered overnight. Each person needs to feel, needs to know that they've earned their life through their own actions, not through the gratitude, not through a windfall, not through just a fluke in nature. Like Bradbury won a gold medal, but at the end of the day he would feel empty knowing that the only way he got that gold medal was because every other competitor who were miles in front of him fell over in the race. Fair enough, there are those of us who argue that if he hadn't done the hard work, he wouldn't have been there in the first place, and that fate wanted him, or God's will was for him to win that race. But at the end of the day, unless you are able to think of it that way and to perceive it that way, then you'd end up living in misery, feeling that you're a fake, and your identity being tarnished by it. So at the end of the day, the bottom line, the bottom message, the key message that comes from this author is that each person needs to feel that they have earned their place in life through their actions, and through the expression of their calling or callings. And the last thing you want to do is to be successful and to be famous, knowing that you've caused grief and you've got it at other people's expense along the way. People that you could have helped, people that you could have supported, people that you could have given opportunities to, and yet you kept those opportunities selfishly for yourself. As John Wooden, the great basketball coach, says, it's not about winning competitions. It's not about being the best player and having the most trophies. It's the person who you become that is the ultimate measure and the key that everybody should be striving for. And what we're talking about here is being a type of person who loves to give, whose role in life is to offer help to others. The reason why we become wealthy, the reason why we become popular, the reason why we become connected, the reason why we become educated, the reason why we become rich is to use those gifts that God has given us to help others, to be his partner in creation, to work with him, to offer love to our neighbours, to love them as we love ourselves, and at the same time to respect, to glorify, and to serve God with all our heart, mind and soul. So the last thing we want to do is to reach the top of the mountain knowing that along the way you trod on people, you walk past people, you kick people off the cliff, and you had a litany of failures or failed relationships along the way. So a very, very powerful point. And as the author says, you can't be other people. You can't live other people's lives. You can, however, experience other people's experiences through reading books, through documentaries, by following other people and listening to other people along the way. But at the end of the day, you can only live one life. You can only live your life, the life that you have in your lifetime. And to understand that there is suffering along the way, there is pain along the way, there is discomfort along the way, because as we said, you can't grow and develop without being uncomfortable. And the ultimate story, the ultimate historical perspective that we should all use, is that God became man, became Jesus, who was perfect man and perfect God, was without sin, and even God was forced to suffer the indignation of the passions, the indignation of being put up on the cross, being whipped, being spat at, being humiliated, and actually dying. Even God, even Jesus, they didn't understand who he was, and they treated him with great disdain. So even if you wanted to be Jesus and to be God, so to speak, as it is, then you'd have to deal with your insecurities, pain, suffering, and all the challenges that life basically has for everybody. So we've got to get it through our minds that everybody's life is going to be full of challenges, and it's up to each and every one of us to rationalise and to understand those challenges and to put them into perspective so that we use them for our development and growth, and understand that they are stepping stones to our future, to our benefit, and to use them accordingly. Because the bottom line is, love is sacrifice, and we need to make choices through our life. We need to make sacrifices that we are proud of. It's very, very important to make sure that all the things we do, you are proud of doing, and you're not doing them just to tick the box, just to make other people happy. And the third point, the last point that the author makes here, is that you don't have to understand life. We are called to live life. If you try and plan too many things, if you try and be too calculating, life may not end up the way you want it to end up, and it rarely does. The best analogy I guess we all need to have is that we need to be surfers, and we need to be on our board, we need to be out in the water, and you just wait for those sets of opportunities to come rolling in your way, and to do whatever you can, paddle as hard as you can, and ride as many waves as you can without being dumped too badly, eaten by a shark, or any other risk that comes with surfing. And to understand that life has problems, life is full of problems, but we as humans have the ability to solve those problems, because everything is figure-outable, everything has a solution, and life is good. And the key element, the key promise from this book, is to understand that these problems are here for our development, our growth, and to allow us and to help us to gain perspective in life. We're all going to live life differently. Our past is going to be different from everybody else's past. Our future is going to be different from everybody else's future, and our present is going to be different. I am here, you are somewhere else, and we're all going to experience different slithers of reality along the way, and it's up to us to align those slithers of reality, and also compare those slithers of reality to other people's slithers of reality. So we need to be discerning with who we compare and contrast to, so that we're on the right track and we're using the right standard in order to measure our performance and how we're tracking in life. The author here says that it's important, it's imperative to live the here and now, the eternal present, the eternal now, because those people who live too much in their past will end up being depressed, because there's nothing much you can do about the past. All you can do is ruminate over and over again what you should have done, what your regrets are, but you can't change it. You can reframe it if possible. If you're smart enough, you can reframe your past and know that each person's past, each experience has both positive and negative elements attached to it. And if you're unhappy about your past, you've probably focused on the negative element that happened rather than the many positive elements that happened during the same experience. Because there are miracles happening all the time. Miracles that are seen, unseen, and unrealised and unnoticed. But it's up to us to try and understand, to see those miracles. The fact that we're here alive now means that there have been many miracles along the way. And we need to be kind, and we need to not spend too much of our life thinking about what if this, what if that, because even if you did follow those paths, even if you did make different decisions, there is no guarantee that it would have worked out. Just like when you go fishing on a wharf and there's 100 people on the wharf with lines in the water, not everybody is going to catch a fish. Not everybody's going to catch the biggest fish. Not everybody's going to catch no fish. But you know, it's up to each person's fate. Just because you want something doesn't mean that you're going to get it. There needs to be a lot of things happening in order for all of those things to manifest themselves and for you to appreciate it. You know, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of gifts that happen to people. They become famous, they become wealthy, they become well connected, but they don't love it, they don't appreciate it, because it's not who they are. They are still empty. They are still wandering and waiting for life to be as they expected it and as they wanted it. So there you go. So thank you very much for listening in on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I've had a couple of interruptions. One being I ran out of memory. The other one is I just received a phone call. So I've had to cut this video into 4 segments. So this is the first. I normally just do it in one take, but there are 4 different segments that I need to attach together in order to present this video. But this book, The Midnight Library, is an absolute cracker. When I saw the title, I said to myself, this is not going to be all that interesting. This is not going to be all that useful. But having read it, it is a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece, which I recommend for you to read and to study. It's not enough.
Fools are the dumbest fuckwits on the planet.
What was that, mate?
Surveillance fools are the dumbest fuckwits on the planet.
What are you saying there, mate? Hey, go and speak to the security guard over there if you want to be a fuckwit. Malaka. Anyway, there are idiots everywhere, as you saw. But we can handle it. Take care. Bye for now.